Translation of the evening session Parayan of August 25th evening session and 2011, and so we now commence. Jai Sachidanand. Let us begin. Jai Sachidanand, I bow to the Supreme Self that who resides within you with total obeisance. Jai Sachidanand. Did everybody read Samaik? Were you able to see? Yes. So when big insults come to you, you will remain in the energies of the self. Nobody is insulting you. Why would anybody insult you? It is the vyavasthit, it is the scientific circumstantial evidences that cause the insult. And when it happens, then you should be happy that it happened. And so if you want to attain moksha, will you not need to become a shaligram being the smooth stone of the Shiva. So by all the knocks that you receive in life makes you a god, verily a god. And so even as the horns of the ego get rubbed away, you become the self, the absolute. We have the safe side, we have the place of the self. Let us now read further. And so we are going to read further from Aptavani 4, page 135 on the English PDF, dadashri.org/Aptavani letter 4.pdf. Aptavani 4.pdf, and they are reading in English now. They are reading in Gujarati, and we will be reading in English. Page 135. Gnanghan Atma. When can it be called as? No. Let's just finish a little bit below. Go ahead. Just read. When can it be called a Siddhant? When one progresses from the state of the so we have to so this is a science where and the science. So we are reading on page 136 now. This worldly life is relative, and you, the self, are real. Therefore, 2H plus 0 oxygen is O is Miss Science. The science is the same all over the world, in England or in America or India. The method of making a tea may change. Somebody will say make milk first, boil water first, or somebody will say no. So there are 1,000 different ways. And so the tastes are changing, and the method of making tea depends upon every human being. But in the science of the elemental self, there is absolutely no difference between the science that was exposed by Lord Ram through Vashishtha Muni, or by Lord Mahavir, or by Lord Krishna. So there is no. Yes, there may be divisiveness in relative religion. Therefore, you should remain on the side of the real and settle with the relative with equanimity. You have to settle with that which has been possessed yourself. This is science, and in science one has no divisiveness. Matbhed exists in dharma. Relative religions. The lady is reading very fast. There are matbhed in religions that are out there. There are vikalps, wrong beliefs. How long can they be considered vikalp? It is as long as there is presence of dharma, or so you can read up this thing. That which keeps pushing away adharma is dharma. Hey, if you do not like adharma, why not live with it without having attachment or abhorrence towards it? But how can one remain that way? This is all these relatives are temporary, and the real is the permanent. You see, all these relatives are temporary and the real is permanent. So now Deepak Bhai says, so if you really want to enter into the realm of the capital self, then there should be no dvesh or abhorrence or aversion towards that which is irreligious, non-religious, wrong religion, and lack of religion, and there should be no attachment towards that which is religious and good. So, but in the relative there is always this stepping, but the one who is on the path of liberation, he does not have attachment or aversion, he is in equanimity only, and he settles all of them. He knows that this is all relative religions, they are not they are all dependent on the circumstances and the understandings of each and every human being, which is different. And so it is all a filled stock from last life, and so we get done with it. And so this is, so the one with the vitarag swabhav, the one with vitaragta, the natural state of the self, he is not concerned with what is happening in the relative, whether it is good or bad. And so, everyone who is in one religion thinks they are superior than the other religion, and so those divisiveness and these differences will remain, and those kind of levels, and those are levels of degrees. People will believe that we are in this level, we believe their intellect will become strong in that, and slowly through the experience then they will know that the relative religion that they are in lacks in something, that it lacks what they were looking for, and therefore they will move towards a higher level of understanding. So this is how it is happening. But here, so we in the religion of the self never negate anything that is happening in the world, we take it as it is. And so that is wrong to negate anything in the relative. The relative is what it is, and you don't need to be concerned with it. And so we have this new vision that, so we do not say anything negative about any saints of any religion of this world, any relative spiritual master of any religious faith in this world, and we are neither attached to them. We are just the knowers that they are all there with their own individual viewpoints. We have entered the religion of the self, and they themselves are the selves. Whether or not they have entered into it is now immaterial. And so that is our Purusharth, our true energy in the path of the progress towards the capital self. Now, the Gnani Purush can give you Gnanghan Atma, pure soul, which lifts one out of the state of dharma, adharma, religion and lack of religion. There is aimless wandering life after life as long as there is dharma, adharma. Fruit of dharma is worldly happiness, sukh or pleasure, and fruit of adharma is worldly misery, dukh or pain. One gets more worldly life through dharma. When you attain Gnanghan Atma, the capital self, then you attain the theory of relativity. And so, what is beyond that? Beyond that lies the theory of absolutism, that is called Vignanghan Atma, or the absolute self. Yes, so in the dharma, adharma, in the religion or the lack of religion, is the back and forth movement between that which is good versus that which is hurtful to others. So the one who is leaving the wrong and moving towards the good, he is moving because of the distinction between the good and the bad. But in the Gnanghan Atma, in the self, is beyond the good and the bad, and therefore that is so. Then he has, such a one has moved beyond dharma adharma, and when the theory of relativity is completely finished, then he enters the theory of absolutism, which is the so it is the intellect that makes the decision of this is good and this is bad. But when the intellect vanishes, then there is nobody. What is the theory of absolutism in the Apta Sutra? The one who does not ever enter into the realm of the non-self complex, and that is called the Gnanghan Atma. Correction, that is the absolute self, and then the Gnanghan Atma, the self is the one is knows that this he needs to move in the direction of the self only. So the theory of absolutism is slowly increasing within all of us. The next one is page 136, now 137, Vignanghan Atma. Gnan means Atma, the self, and Vignan means absolute self. This is Gnan means is the self, and Paramatma. So when he becomes ego means Jivatma, means the living self, and then Gnan means the S capital self, and Vignans is the absolute self. This is a science. This is a science of Atma and Paramatma, and is a Siddhant. It is not even a fraction of a change can happen in Siddhant, and it can go right through on to the other side to the ultimate moksha. Having become Gnanghan Atma after attaining the eternal self, so now there is a new thing that is opening up for the next. Having entered into the Gnanghan, having attained the eternal self, then one needs to know the Vignanghan Atma. So you Mahatmas, you have come into the nature of the Dada tells that you Mahatmas are at the level of I am pure soul at the word level, and I am the Vignanghan Atma, I am the absolute self level. So we know that we have to move forward, and that is our goal, that we have to move towards I am the Vignan self, I am the Vignanghan Atma. In all that lives I am. You should know that Vignanghan Atma means in all that lives I am. When you see that, it is called Vignanghan Atma. Such a one may appear bound by the body complex, and yet he is absolutely free. And it's in other words, even if you yourself something happens terribly, okay, whether when you are not affected, when you break a glass, in the same way somebody else breaks your glass, you are not affected. And so regardless of who does the damage, you are not affected. That because you are the knower and the seer of the Prakriti, the non-self complex, and therefore there is no separation from the other human being, from the other living being. I am in everyone. When you see that, it is called, such a one may appear bound by the body complex, and yet he is absolutely free. The Gnani Purush is Vignanghan Atma. He is not only in the theory of absolutism, but he is in the theorem of absolutism. It is because of the awakening of the merit karma of the world that this Akram science has manifested. Everybody is clapping, and the Vignanghan Atma has illuminated. And we all are so laden with excellent merit karma that we are able to listen to this. Generally this happens when the fully enlightened one is there. But Dada failed by 4 degrees. It is usually in the presence of Tirthankar that this happens. But in the absence of the Tirthankar, Gnani Purush Dadashri has opened up the entire science in such a manner that the entire world can open it and understand it, and simple ordinary human beings can understand it in very simple to easy understand language. So now let us take this with this. Let us first read it. The whole world is in the nature of a science. However, because people do not know this science, they continue to run after religion. If one understands this science, if one can understand what it is and how it works, then he can become free. Inability to understand this is the extremely profound puzzle of this world. The Vignan is in 2 ways. The science is in 2 ways. How is this world running? Number 1. How did it arise? How is everything constructed? How are karma bound? How are they created? How does one become free from karma? That is, to know that is called science too. But the original self is also the Vignanghan Atma, and the self is, but the elemental self itself is the science too. Just as 2H plus 1 atom of oxygen will always make water, in the same way anger, greed, precede, pride arises, and is called the karma charges. I am Jeff, I am Nada, I am Uve. That means I am going to bind karma, because with that and so then that is the ignorance. And to know all of that is also science. So there are 2 types. In Aptavani 11 what is the difference in Aptavani 11? What is the difference between nature and science? So Dadashri says that nature means to know everything that is in nature, that is called science too. But also but it is happening naturally in the nature that 2H plus O getting together, that is called, and to know and to know that this is happening and to not know that, then that is called ignorance. At the elemental level, to know the elemental level of things that are happening in the nature is called the Vignan, whereas also to know generally everything that is happening in nature is also called science too. So Gnani Purush Dadashri frees us from the touch point from where the charging of new karma happens, which is through the sense that I am this body, I am Marika, I am Marion, I am Uva, I am Nada, and I am doing everything. So then he gives us the exact understanding of who am I and who is the doer in all of this, and gives us the exact understanding of the doer. So this, to know this in exactness, is also the science, and to know this at the elemental level is also called the science. And as we read this speech of the Gnani Purush, and as we apply it in daily applications in our life, as the causes unfold, the effects of the causes that were created in the last life unfold in front of us, and how can we keep it separate? How can the other person, if we can see how the suffering arises and who is the sufferer, what is the basis of the suffering, what is the nature of this suffering, who is the one who is hurting, why is he hurting, etc., then one is entering into the Vignan. At the end of it all, when you can see this world as it is, then the more when you can know it, the world as it is, then you will remain vitarag, you will remain equanimous, you will remain unaffected, and all states of the Gnan, the G capital, will remain and be your state, and therefore that is what will be, that is called Vignan. Now going next question asked by Naptaputra. Ketan here asking a question. Absolute is called the Niralam state, and real is real. This morning we talked about, but now I want some more. Gnanghan Atma is the theory of reality, and Vignanghan Atma is the theory of absolutism. I want to get the separation between Gnanghan Atma and Vignanghan Atma. In the relative, from the relative, he moves from the good and the bad towards the reality that the good and bad are all relative, and the eternal is the self only. And absolute means in that he has already arrived there and is not moving from that at all. But from the real viewpoint, he is coming into the real viewpoint, and when he comes into the absolute viewpoint, the absolute state, the Keval state, then he remains in the absolutely pure state, absolutely Shuddha state. And so as long as there is 99% of relative 99% purity but 1% impurity left, then it is called Gnanghan Atma. It is not called Vignanghan Atma. The absolute one is 100% pure, 100% Shuddha, 100% Shuddha, and it is absolute, and that is called Keval Gnan. Absolute knowledge has arisen from every aspect. We have the support of the pure soul. We have the support of the satsang, and because of the support of the pure soul and of the satsang, we are moving in the direction of the S capital self. And so, but we have gotten the demarcation between the real and the relative, and but because of the mixture, there is some confusion. But if we move purely into the realm of the self, then the self begins to prevail, and in there is absolutely nothing to become absorbed in. One does not become Tanmayakar, the body mind form, at all. One is only in the Gnanghan and the Vignanghan. He becomes into the one and so up until then he used to believe that I am Ketan, but then now he says I am pure soul, and he has now come into reality, and as the reality increases, it will become absolute. But when he becomes the Siddhat, when he attains the Siddha state that is remaining, even after becoming the absolute, his his final liberation to become the Sid still remains, does it not? Yes, because in the absolute state he has the yoga of the union with the mind, speech and body. But when he becomes free from the mind, speech and body completely and forever, eternally, then he becomes the Sid. Now I want to understand some more. When you talk about this, when Dada talks about theorem of absolutism, I want to understand that a little more. Can you please explain that? Can you please? Tirthankars are in that state, and Gnani Purush Dadashri is also this. The difference between the Tirthankar and Gnani Purush Dadashri is the lack of 4 degrees. He is absolute vitrag in worldly situations, but for he is, but yet he is moving towards the self, and he is nisproof towards sansar and sasproof towards atma. Yes, but he says, but it doesn't really matter. I still, for me, it doesn't matter if I have to do 1 or 2 more lives, says Gnani Purush Dadashri. But his intensity of Jagat Kalyan is so much that it doesn't matter for him. He is not in a hurry to attain absolute liberation. It was my intention that I wanted to become a vitrag, and also I wanted to sow the seeds of vitragta all over the world. And I will not, and he says, yes, but 4 degrees are remain. But he has the Jagat Kalyan Bhavna, and he has the Bhavna, the intentions for Jagat Kalyan, which is a relative intent, and that is what keeps him as the Gnani Purush. That is what, and so he is therefore. But you see, this intention for Jagat Kalyan is keeping him back as the 4 degrees, and does not make him a Tirthankar, or the absolute one. The absolute one. And it is not possible for one to become that in this particular time cycle, and in this particular so therefore he says, I remained as a monitor, but he says, I am in moksha, I am the moksha swarup, I am the embodiment of moksha, I am the liberated one. Next one, asking question is, what is it? When we are saying I am Vignan Swarup in the Charan Vidhi, where does it reach? It reaches the absolute self only. Yes, when you say I am pure soul, I am Ich bin reine Seele, then when you say I am the absolute self, I am the Vignan Swarup Chu, at the end of the Charan Vidhi, that means it reaches the absolute self. Niralamb Atma is the independent self, which means that even when Dada had the accident, he had a major auto accident, he says, Ambalal got hurt, but I did not move at all from my S capital self. Even when he tried bhang, which is the opium extract, accidentally somebody gave it to him, he says, I was the absolute knower and seer of everything, all the effects of the opium liquid drink, opiate based liquid drink that was given, bhang given to him. And he says, I was able to see everything that was happening to the body. But he says, and just before he left this body, he was at the 358 degrees. Only 2 degrees were left. And then Dimple Pai asking a question here. What is the difference between theory of absolutism and theorem of? Theory means it is a theory. It is a theory, and theorem is the practical that has entered into the experience. As theorem is it the same thing? The theorem means it is the experience of it, and the other one, Kevad Gnan. So there is absolute charitra, absolute conduct, then it is in the theorem of absolutism. There is the absolute conduct as the S capital self, and for us it has come into the vision only. So the absolutely independent self, when you can see the absolutely independent S capital self, then the theory of relativity has started for us. But Dada has said that, talked about these very subtle distinctions between the theory of absolutism and the theorem of absolutism. So we are setting it through the words. Whatever Dada has experienced through experience himself, we are trying to set through the words. When we go, as we come into the level of the clear and the distinct experience of the self, the Spashta Vedan, then we will know the exact nature of the Niralam Swarup, the absolutely independent self, which is the theorem. So does it mean that we have to go? Yes, we have to go beyond the theory into the theorem. Yes. What is the theory of reality? The theory of reality means to know that I am pure soul. And as we become free from the filled stock through the five agnas, we will move into the nature of the absolute self. And so there is Dadashri says, for me, the 2 degrees that are lacking, when they become filled, then I will enter into Keval Gnan, absolute knowledge state only. But it is for the work of the world, the salvation of the world, that it is kept behind. Okay, theory of reality, that means a Mahatma. Theorem, theory of, and so so this is differentiation between Mahatma and the Gnani Purush. Yes. When so in the what is the difference between the theorem of absolutism? There must be some. That is the beginning of the Gnani Pad. The Niruma also became a Gnani. Don't you think there's a difference between the Gnani Niruma and Gnani Dadashri? Gnani Dadashri was 356 degrees and Gnani Niruma is at 346 degrees. And so there is a difference. But the levels of experience of Dadashri is clearly different from the level of experience of Gnani Niruma. And that is the difference. And that will, as the level of the experience increases, do you think before becoming absolutely enlightened, everybody will enter into the theorem of absolutism? Deepak Bhai says, yes, that is the law. Yes, we have become the pure soul by these things. Therefore, we are no longer connected with the non-self complex, the Pudgal. And so everybody is undergoing their discharge at different levels, and their discharge and settling the discharge effects at different levels. And as the filled stock decreases, the inner degrees will increase from 345 degrees to 356 degrees. So this is how it is happening. And so most important thing is that you and I have become separate from Dimple. And it is through the clear and the distinct experiential understanding that has been attained through the grace of the Gnani Purush and the Gnan Vidhi that this has happened for all of us. I have become separate from Uwe, I have become separate from Nada, I have become separate from Jeff. Everybody's Purusharth is rising internally within. And so now when we are rising, they are rising within. Now, therefore, our own inquisitiveness will rise within. What is the nature of the Absolute Self? What is the nature of the state of the Absolute Self? What is the nature of the state of Kevad Gnan? All of these things will happen and so as we search more for it, and so the theory of absolutism starts at the level of the Gnani. One becomes a mini Gnani through 1 or 2, 3, 4 degrees, and as the experience increases, then he becomes the full Gnani. So even when the accident happens, the arm broke, then it didn't touch me. That was the theorem, but the experience. Yes, you had the theory that no matter what happens to the body, nothing is going to happen to me. That is in theory. And so, but when it happens actually in an accident and you are not affected at all, then you are in the theorem of absolutism by that fraction, are you not? So, but if you say, no, this happened to me, I got hurt. Supposing you enter the abode of a tiger, a cave of a tiger, and it didn't affect you, then you are in the theorem of absolutism. And so, even in the worldly matters of this organization activity therefore that means, and so if you are not affected, no matter what happens to the activities of the Akram Vignan Foundation, then you are fine. But you see, if you get affected, that means you are in the theory. But Niruma was like that, right? Says, yes. And ultimately she experienced that. How is it? It cannot be seen through the intellect, says Deepak Bhai. It cannot be. Let me ask you, how is it for you? Two sentences, Dada helped me a lot. Number one, Deepak is separate from, and I am pure soul through the awakening. Dada told me, Atma is what? Gnan. What is the Gnan like? If you see the room, there is room. If you see the sky, there is the sky. The satsang was going on. There were about 52 other, but I was at the tail end. I was just listening from the back of the room. As soon as I saw, what is Gnan? I could see that this is the genre. It says the seer sees the room, the seer sees the sky. I was able to see it. I could see from inside that I am continuously separate from people. But when I listened to this sentence from Dada, that there was a very major experience that the seer sees the room as well as the seer sees the sky too. So the external also kind of separated from me from where. And so there was interrupted separation initially, and then when Dada gave the detailed understanding of this particular sentence, that the seer sees the room and the seer sees the sky too. And so therefore the seers, then I could see that there was something higher. So is that the theory of absolutism? Yes, that was the beginning of the theory of absolutism, says Deepak Pai. And that is how you can understand the links of the science. Now it seems to me that what Dada is trying to tell is, so there are three words also. There is ignorance, agnan, there is gnan, and then there is vignan. Then initially there is agnan gnan, and then there is gnan gnan, and then there is gnan gnan, then there is vignan. When you are in the relative only, that is called agnan gnan. When you are in the relative real, when the relativity is gone and you come into the gnan, and then when you come into the Vignanghan, which is really the entire science of the self only in operation at all, and there is no contradiction there at all, there is no doubt at all. This is what we need to have in our vision only. We talk about Neminath. Lord Neminath told Gajusu Kumar, it was a very gross level. It's a Kevad Gnan Swarup is so subtle that nothing can burn you, even if they lay fire on your head. Gajusu Kumar, Neminath Bhagwan said, nothing will happen to you. He says, and Dada says that even in a diamond there is space. Because there is space in a diamond, that is why a diamond can be broken. Otherwise, he says, but in this Amurta, in this body, in the space, in the space in between subatomic particles, that is where the S-capital Self resides, and that is in this. So so there is space even in a diamond. Therefore, the Self can move even through a diamond too. It's something that, yes, you see. So we can, even while sitting in City, we can see the Statue of Liberty, because our chit can go there right all the way to Statue of Liberty. So as we can take the ongoing links of the words of the Gnani Purush, we will attain the ultimate beautiful Vignanghan Atma. And so when you say I spoke so very beautifully, then I enjoyed so much, that is just the ego. But when you go into that, at that level it will not even arise. When you will not have any compliments will not affect you. How nicely I spoke, or how nicely I did not speak, how beautifully I did, or how did you see? In other words, you see, somebody collides with the car. It is the car that which killed that person. But you see, in the violence also, you are not committing violence. I am not the doer of anything. In all of this, I am the absolute self only. I am the one who is the knower and the seer. And as this arises, then it arises in your vision only. So this paragraph on page 137, this is the one paragraph. The whole world, just before the fixed viewpoints, is the critical point. And so if you can understand it, comes in Aptavani 11 to how did the world arise? How did the world, that is called the science. The more you understand the elemental science of everything that is happening in front of you, then you will not be affected, and you will not miss your samadhi, the unaffected state. Fixed viewpoints and sects in relative Dharma. Jain religion, Vaishnava religion, Muslim religion, Parsi religion, Christian religion are all relative religions. These religions and this religion of the self has nothing to do with each other. This is the real thing. Relative religion means that it takes you ahead step by step, but they are still not real religions. Relative religions, and Vignan is a science. He has experienced so much of this science that he can extricate you, can move you away and let you see the relative religions as they are. No matter how developed one may be in these relative religions, these are all ultimately relative religions only. He may be highly religious in a relative religion, but it has got nothing to do with the S capital self. The real is at a level of the science only. And in the relative religion also there is not, true religion is not to be found. Krupadev has talked about it. Anytime you try to get divide between religions, divisiveness religions and religious sects is not called real religion at all. And so you have not attained anything, and it is relative. Where there is sect, gacha, and divisive opinion, mat, there is no religion. No religion is real religion. There is no path to moksha there. Partiality, paksh, and moksha are contradictory. They are a contradiction. Where there are divisions of sects and opinions, there is a greater bondage of karma in it than there is for a person living a worldly life. Moksha is attained through vitrag religion. Religious sect, sampradaya, means adhering to one viewpoint, ekantik. Vitrag religion is not ekantik, it is accept all viewpoints. The vitrag is beyond all sects. The religion of the vitrag is beyond divisiveness. Our Vikram Vignan accept all viewpoints. There are Jains here, Muslims here, there are Vaishnavas here. Here the speech is acceptable, Syadvad. Where there is only one viewpoint, ekantik religion, there is only one kind of people flock there. All with similar viewpoints will go there. Next page. All kinds of pains will come to an end through the Vitrag speech. Question: when can it be said that one has understood? Dadashri says, when conflicts and worries are gone. If conflicts and worries do not arise when a person is insulted, or when someone slaps him, or when he sits in a car and someone tells him to get out, then he is said to have understood. Otherwise, how can you consider him to have any understanding? So now Deepak Bhai talks about this words Syadvad and Anekant view. Anekant view, the view that accepts all viewpoints. And Dadashri lifts herself from all of these viewpoints and makes us sit in the level of the S capital self. Sampradaya or sect-based religious divisiveness is relative and it is temporary, and we have to move into the real only. In the real, the real is the one which considers the common denominator in all, which is the self in all, the Atma in all, the reine, seele in all. And so the Vitrag Dharma will make you free from all kinds of pains. And all the conflicts also stop, and one becomes still in the religion of the self. The essence of religion is the next heading. There are two main kinds of essences in this world. There is Dharmasar, the essence of religion, and Samaysar, the essence of the smallest fraction of time, the self. What do we call Dharma, religion? If one attains the essence of religion, then one is said to have attained religion. What is Dharmasar? It is when there is no Artha Dhyan or Raudra Dhyan. He can eat, drink and go out, do business and do anything he wants to do. Then it is called Dharmasar. And when one gets the essence of the meaning of religion, Marmasar, that is called liberation. Liberation does not come from Dharmasar, but Marmasar arises out of Dharma, and from that one will come to liberation. So there are three things: Dharmasar, and then Dharma means everybody having read all the religious scriptures, then that is the essence, the final. Dada read all the religious scriptures, Christian scriptures, and then he came out of it. That is called Dharmasar, the essence of religion. Then the essence of religion is not to have Artha Dhyan or Raudra Dhyan, adverse internal meditation. And in other words, to move towards the S capital self only. Marma means what? The marma means, what is the extract of when he gets the meaning? And then he does not allow the happening, does not allow any Artha or Rauddra Dhyan to happen, because he has Akha. Akha Bhagat has said that if you are a living being, then the God is the doer, and if you are God, then the doer is somebody else. And so the worldly saints, great saints of the world, have understood the extract of the world, but when one attains the essence of it all, even Vedanta stops at the not in this, not in this, not in this, not in this, and so go to a Gnani. And when he comes to a Gnani, and then he comes to the essence of Marma, he gets then, and the Marma no Sar, the essence is that I am the essential one, I am the eternal one, I am the self, and then it has attained the Marma of the things. And so this is when he attains the Agnani, when he meets the Gnani and he attains the self, then he has attained Marmasar. Dadashri says, I have made you drink the essence of all religions. And now, as you settle your files with equanimity, and that means I am pure. Marmasar means I am pure soul. What is the essence of all religions? It is to see whether Artha Dhyan and Rauddra Dhyan have gone. Have they gone? If they have not, then you are not in Dharma. Have they gone down? One would say yes. If they have gone down, then maybe we can say that he is in Dharma. But if they have not gone down, and they happen a lot, it is not acceptable. He is in Dharma. Deepak Bhai says that such a person remains in the kriyas and the activities of religion, but inner activities that of Artha and Rauddra, adverse meditation that hurts the self and the others, is continue. What is Dharma? It is when you do not see the faults of the other person, even when he provokes or attacks you. What is the essence of such a science? Then he says, Jagatsar, pleasures of the senses, Vishay Sukh. What is the essence of religion? It is when Artha Dhyan and Rauddra Dhyan do not happen. Dharmasar is the main essence of the world. The religion in which you do not attain Dharmasar is wrong. Regardless of whether you are following Jain or Vaishnava or any other religion, we are on page 139. What is the natural state of this? When the natural state of the self arises, Swaparinati, it means Samaysar has arisen. When you know that I am not the doer, Vyavasthit is the doer, then you are in Swaparinati, or the state of the self, and that is the Samaysar, the essence of the self. That means you have attained the essence of time. That means your time does not go in anything else. You have come into the state of the self, which is beyond time. What is religion? What is science? What is the difference between religion and science? Science is Siddhant, and religions are all relative. Their fruits are relative, and their actions are also relative. Whatever you do, believing I am Chandu Bhai, it is religion, and to know it exactly as it is called science. After one becomes absolutely without a doubt Nishank, after realizing the self, to know everything as it is called science. Science is always non-contradictory. I am the pure soul. So now to know the self as it is, who did it, on what basis did it happen, why, how is the self separate from it, who is affected, what kind of effect has happened, under which particular aspect, and through which understanding this can be dispelled, then as you can see it as it is, that is called science. Science is always non-contradictory. It will show everything as it is. It shows the fact only. Questioner, can you explain that in detail? Dadashri says, I think it will show it. It is like this. Dadashri says it is like this. I am Chandubai. This, as I am Chandubai, when you insult somebody, then it is called adharma. And when you give someone something good to eat and drink and make him happy, that is called dharma. It is adharma when someone you hurt someone and cause someone to experience pain. When you hurt someone, that is called adharma. And when you give pleasure to someone else, then that is called dharma. But when you are in the awareness of who I am, then that is called Vignan. So through the relative arises, and through the real nothing in the relative arises. And only through the real, only the real arises. The only thing that remains is the realization of the self. At the moment you have the illusory belief that all things that run because of my ability, my energies, God did this, my horoscopes are unfavorable, whereas in fact the doer is some other entity. So that is the end of the chapter on page 139. Now, page 1, chapter 17 on page 140, knowing God through the vision of Gnan. Somebody is asking a question now. It says the relative arises through the real only, and the real never. The Dada says through this, because when you are the pure soul, then nothing new arises. And he says, so whatever Purusharth you do as the S capital Self, it will liberate you. But the relative people are, no matter what they try to do, they only more relative arises through the relative. But now, having stepped away from the relative, nothing new is going to arise for you. It is not, yes. And so now for us, it is nothing remaining but just to become done with the relative. But your real awareness, awakened awareness of the real self has arisen. It says the real basement of but the worldly people, their basement is I am Chandubai, I am Uwe, I am Nada, I am Jeff, I am Katya. So now we are proceeding in towards the real. Prajna is the one that our Akram is our Akram. But our prajna, the awakening energy, this energy of the liberating self, awakens us towards the differentiation between the non-self and the self only. Yes. This part in the last chapter it is for the worldly people. It's not for us. It is for the people who are. It is for the worldly people who have not awakened in the Gnanvidhi of Gnani Purush Dadashri. If you say, but for us it is nothing but, we are, whatever we do on the base. And so if you eat, drink and do whatever you do because you want to attain liberation and know the self only as capital, then you will, it will all be for the benefit of the self. Knowing is I am a part of God, true. Who are you? Questioner. Dadashri. I am a part of God. Questioner is asking. I am a part of God, Ishwar. This is an error. The questioner, Dadashri is asking, who are you? The questioner says, I am a part of God, Ishwara. Now let us listen to it very carefully. Dadashri, people have been misled by these talks about one being a part or fraction of God. How can one be a fraction of God? How can you divide God into pieces? Yes. Yes, how God? How can you divide God? The self is asanyogi, has no connections with any sanyog, circumstance. Circumstances can be divided into fractions. The soul is natural thing. You cannot divide the innate nature into pieces. You, the self, are verily whole, but you are covered with veils of ignorance. What is really meant by I am a fraction of God means that a fraction of Gnan, knowledge, has manifest within. A fraction of ignorance has been unveiled. The sun is full, but the light you get from it depends on how much of it has been veiled by clouds. Similarly, you, the self, are full and complete, but you have been covered up. First, the Ekindriya Jeev, one sense developed organism, has a fraction of the total veil uncovered. It will feel the pain if it is hit hard, but it will not feel anything if you insult it or give it some tea. Now then the two sense organism, and so please read the rest of the paragraph. Then the third three sense, and then comes the fourth sense developed and the five sense developed beings. The five sense developed creatures have developed the five sense beings now. Now, however, the God, the Self, is complete in each one of them, yet is covered in veils. When the Self becomes completely unveiled, that is called Paramatma, or the Absolute Self. You have to remain that you have to know that you are all the pure soul, you are the Absolute Soul, and you see, and you are the pure soul if the veils get lifted up, and when all the veils get lifted up, you will become the Paramatma, the Absolute Self. This is the vision of the Dadashri, Gnani Purush Dadashri. Every sentence of it cannot be contradicted. It is absolutely pure, absolutely, and he has opened up this entire science. This is happen, and because it is happening for him. When one cannot become aware of. When one becomes aware of the oneself without becoming awakened, one cannot become aware of oneself without becoming awakened. When one becomes awakened from all aspects, his awareness of the self manifests, and through that awareness, he realizes that he is God himself in every sense, Paramatma. He will begin to experience this. Next, is God omnipresent? Yes. Where does God live? Dadashri says God is omnipresent, is he not? Says the questioner. He resides in every grain. Dadashri says there is no need to search for him, is there? If God is everywhere, then where should we go if we want to go to the toilet? If God is everywhere, then there is no distinction between that which is living and that which is non-living. So there is no animate and inanimate. Is everything so? But so in all of this, if you know the self capital as capital, then you will know that which is the non-self. But people claim that God is everywhere, so then where is the need to seek him? Now the next heading, the life given to the inanimate objects by minus. People say that God is found in every grain. They say that he is in this, he is in that. Is there not a difference between what one is trying to convey and the one who understands this? Please let me explain. Please explain. Dadashri says you have to understand from which perspective that statement comes from. In this world there are two divisions. One is the self, Atma, and the other is the non-self. Now, and there is no Chetan, but because the table belongs to Chandubai, it is called Sankalpi Chetan. Chandubai thinks that he is the owner, and if you were to take the whole table without the permission, you are liable for the fault. However, if you would not be liable if you paid him for it. Please read. I have to read very fast here, and so the reading is not very good. So now, no. So can we ask any kind of questions you want to ask? Page 141. We have just ended. Yes. So please read at your own leisure, because when you have to read under the pressure of high speed reading, it is difficult. Dadashri, Niruma used to say that I never have taken a single step without asking Dadashri. Yes. We talk about Agna as Dharma and Agna as Tap. You know, I don't need to ask my wife, I am the owner of the home too. And the wife also says it is my home too, I don't need to ask her. You know, without asking a very big. But when you ask something, then you see, even in the relative, you have, if you take Agnas, let us take, we can take about Sasana. Let us talk in Samaik, have you done anything without asking? Have you, and that is, when you do something without asking, that is called stealing. Adatadan, that is called in Jain scriptures. Next one. The next one is, what is your name? Next paragraph is understanding the knower on chapter 18. Who are you? Chandulal. Are you really Chandubai? It's a name given to the body. Then who are you? Atma. What is Atma? Do you know what you mean by Atma? Are you referring to this body, these bangles, or the brain? When you say Atma, what can we call Atma? You will have to know the self, will you not? You will have to know, you will have to attain the knowledge of the self, will you not? Questioner, Antaratma, the one within. Yes, the Antaratma, but will you not have to understand what are the attributes and the nature of the Gnanghan Atma are? Whether it eats or drinks or not, does it burn or if not? But what kind of self are you? You can say, what kind of self have you become? If somebody insults you, will you be affected? Are you that kind of a pure soul? Are you? If you don't get food, are you that kind of a pure soul? Will you be affected? But if you are made to sit in the front, from the back, they shift you off, then you should have the knowledge of who is being moved. Yes, we have become the interim soul, the Antaratma, but now it has to go into, when the worldly events do not touch you, then you know they've attained the pure soul. And if you know that this is happening to Uwe, this is happening to Nada, this is happening to Jeff, then you know that is also called awakened awareness. Now that you have known it, now we need to go. If they say come on in the car 9 times and then they get you off the car 9 times, then you know that you've attained the self. When they hurt you, when they slap you, when they throw you out, when they insult you, then take away your food, then you know that they have attained the self in all its glory. And for that we need to have the complete understanding of it. And as we apply this understanding, then we will become free from it. Mistakes of the soul. What are the attributes of the soul? It is worrying. Is it worrying one of its attributes? Does Atma do Kashai? Questioner. That is not an attribute. It does Kashais by mistake. Dadashri says, if that was an error. When Aptavani 4 came out, there was no Q&A. Whatever when Dada would say something, so as the ignorance goes away, then the Gnan takes hold. If you say that the self makes Kashai, then Dadashri will immediately. So Dadashri just comes out with a whole paragraph on page 3, 144. And so then Dadashri understands it. So Dadashri then says, if the soul makes mistakes, then how can it even be called a soul? The soul, the self, is the absolute self, Paramatma itself. How can it ever make a mistake? And does that mean that we are superior to the soul to the point to point out this mistake? The statement that the soul makes a mistake is in itself means that soul makes mistakes and you are pure without any mistakes. The soul itself is the absolute soul. It is vitarag. It is because you have not been awakened to the self that you believe that I am Chandubai, I am Chandubai. This is the falsely projected belief. It is an imagination. It is a relative belief. So then who are you in all this reality? This is Chandubai. Deepak Bhai says that if intellects, when the intellect says, why did the person treat me like this, then we have we have so much stock of Gnan that we can rise above it. And so then we can rise above it. And this is how we can become free from this. So, but if you have only 1 or 2 keys of Gnan, then so Dada has opened up so much science in this here. This Chandubai is a relative entity. It is a relative belief. This is all kinds of wrong beliefs in the relative. I am his daughter, I am his aunt, etc. There are many such wrong beliefs. There is no wrong belief in the real. When you realize the self, you attain the self, and you are on the way to moksha. You have never attained the awareness of the S-capital self. To have awareness of the self is called having samkit, or the right belief, or samyak darshan, right vision. You have never attained the right belief. Had you done so, then you would not have been sitting here. Without the right belief, you would not have even a moment of self. You will remain in illusion. One is overcome with infatuation when one gets married. After marriage, reality hits them. That is called sleep of illusory attachment, mohendriya. You see? So the marriage state was the illusory. You go to somebody's wedding, also the illusion takes over, and there is all kinds of illusion that takes over. And so the market of illusory attachment goes. As we read all of these things, we should take a little break after we read, and then we can apply it. When did I get covered with the illusion of the marriage state? What happened in my marriage? What happened when I got married, when I got attached, and so this is all that is going to help you to move free from it all. Next one, Swadhyaya in Parayan. What do you read? I do Swadhyaya, self-study. I read the Jain scriptures, aphorisms. I give lectures too. I do all that. The one doing Swadhyaya is really doing Paradhyaya, study of the non-self only. If one studies the self, just one, he will find resolution into everything from there on. Everything that is taking place is is dependent upon the non-self, and therefore, however, with the dependency on the self, there is liberation. Ultimately, the ego will have to dissolve. Page 145. Man generally accepts taking up the Shubha Shubh, auspicious, inauspicious dharma. In every religion, there is talk about good and bad. Jain religion considers a Shubh as that which is hurtful, a lower level. They do not discuss it. In their spiritual discourses, they talk about Gnanis and about the enlightened ones, and then they want to, and the essence of Jain religion is, but now the Jains have gone into, there are 4 types of anuyog. There is kathanuyog, charnanuyog, dravanuyog, and karnanuyog, and karnanuyog. So there are 4 levels. Please read. And Vedanta has got 4 yogs: Bhakti Yog, Karma Yog, Raj Yog, and Jnana Yog. The Lord has said that if you are a Jain, read these 4 anuyogs. And if you are for a Vedanti, then read these 4 yogas of Vedanta. Then you will find that which leads to the self. In the Shubha Shubh, there is rulership, and in pursuing it, it increases the ego, and in the process of listening the stories of great human beings, that is called Kathani Yoga, the ego does not increase. By listening to the stories of Vastupad and Tejpad, one gets inspired to want to be that way. But nowadays, people's egos have increased. How much ego should the Jain have? Says Deepak Bhai, when there is no doership at all, then there is this thing. And then we need to rise above the auspicious and the inauspicious. Yes. And so then one needs to go towards the higher level of upayogs. And so the next is the reading on the Gnai and the Gnata. Please read for yourself, because the reading is going on, and I'll be right back. So where am I getting lost in this kashais? That is what I need to know. And to know this kashais and to know, then it can, but that is what is called beneficial in Jain Dharma, because otherwise everything else will increase the ego only. And there is no doership in Jain religion really, and so you'll miss out of it. Gnai Gnata, Anadithi Gnai ne Gnata Samji Varte Loko. For time immemorial, people verily believe the Gnai, the non-self, to be the knower, and that is why how they pass their life. What has the worldly people religion been like? So they believe I am the Acharya, I am the knower, I am the engineer, I am the knower, the doctor, etc. I am the husband, etc. Whereas the self is not the husband, is he? But that is the illusion. The Acharya thinks that he is the knower. However, due to illusion, he believes that I gave the religious discourse. But the knower does not know, and the doer does not see. You see, the knower does not. The doer and the knower are eternally separate. And yet one claims that I am the Acharya. The doer and the knower have never been one, and they are not one, and they never will be one. And yet one claims I am the Acharya. One is sitting at the Matunga railway station and claims that Kolkata is the next station. Alas, the next station is Mahim, the next suburb, the next suburb. You see, the knower is the self as capital, and the object to be known, the Gnani, is the non-self. The real Gnani is within. The real Gnani is the one who believes that I am seeing and I am knowing. And you need to see that one within you. Chandu, the entire Chandubai is the Gnani. He is the owner of the business. He is the owner of this house, and we are the knower. And if you remain in this, then you will remain in this. If you remain the knower of all that is to be known, then you will remain in samadhi. What is your dharma? It is to remain the knower of all that is happening, and to remain as the knower seer and in absolute self. What is dharma? It is that which is in its own attributes and state. That is the definition of dharma. If gold remains within its own properties and state, it is called dharma. It is not called gold dharma if it displays attributes and states of brass. That is called par dharma. One has become Chandubai. He believes the dharma of the body, the non-self complex, to be his own. He believes the dharma of the antakaran, and that is all of the non-self and the small self. That is par dharma. One can never attain liberation by being in par dharma. Liberation is only attained through swadharma, being the S capital self. You see, what do I need to eat, not eat? What do I need to dress? How do I need to talk? That is all religion of the body complex. And he develops in this manner through the relative until he meets the Gnani Purush, and then he begins the Swadharma. This is a very subtle understanding here. What is Gnai and what is Gnata? Becoming free from the non-self is liberation. Moksha Dharma is to become free from ignorance. In this path of liberation, I make everyone free from ignorance. Hence one becomes engaged in the Gnan. When ignorance ceases, science, Vignan manifests. However, ignorance cannot cease in anyone without the presence and the grace of a Gnani. No one can become free from the belief that I am this body, Dehadyas. To become free from this belief is verily liberation. One needs to become engaged in a Gnan just by just a fraction, then complete Gnan will be attained. If for just a fraction one becomes Gnan, one becomes whole, becomes knowledge, because knowledge is really science. Ignorance is not science. When one fraction of the science, Vignan, is attained, then it will become whole. When will even a fraction of the science manifest? You have to ask the one, O capital, who is familiar with this path. Then you can find that path. Similarly, you can attain that path if you ask the Gnani Purush who has the knowledge of this path. This is not a religion, it is a science. This is the real religion. This path is always around. Here is the Lord of the 14th world has manifested within me. This body is like a bubble. One can even attain. Dharma is that which liberates you from all bondage. That which gives you true liberation is called Dharma. So there is ignorance, then there is Gnan, is a science, and then there is Vignan. Ignorance means dharma, adharma. I am Chandu, then I am pure soul, and then I am absolute pure soul. There are three levels of. The words of Siddhant have been laid open by the Gnani Purush to the world. Dada has not touched the Kriya of the non-self complex. He is focusing only on the S capital self only. Whether you tell a lie or whether you eat good food or bad food or right food or wrong food is not the issue at all here. It is your wrong understanding that is creating all of this havoc in the relative world. And that is the Dehatyas, that is the I am the body idea, that is the feeling that I am this body. Deepak Bhai in essence repeating what has just been covered now, and he talks about how to remain separate from the body and to attain Gnan Jagruti. That is the end of the Parayan session on session number 3, Aptavani 4, August 25th, afternoon session before the break, the reading session. This will be followed by the Q&A session. Jai Sachidanand.